Oda Taichi, a new student at Gokako High School, has only been enrolled for a few days when he stumbles upon the video game clubroom. He stands there surprised by the idea that students can openly play video games at school without any issues. The thought crosses his mind that high school might just be even more awesome than he imagined. As a passionate gamer himself, there's no way he can resist joining the club. Curious about who he might meet, Taichi opens the door. Inside, he spots a female student immersed in a game, but something catches his eye. She's using her legs to play. Puzzled, he wonders if she's playing on a PlayStation, but after a moment of observation, he realizes it's actually a Famicom. The female student already notices Oda's presence and gestures for him to help her, clearly struggling to play the game alone. She looks determined, but is having a hard time. Oda, unsure of how to assist, stands by, not knowing what to do, just by watching. She explains that the game is the Absurd Sports Tournament, an old fitness game from the Famicom era where body movements control the characters on the screen. To help him understand, she demonstrates, showing how her movements guide the game. With her instructions clear, Oda steps in, placing his hands on some of the buttons to assist her. Together, they manage to finish the game. Once it ends, she turns to get a proper look at him and realizes they are classmates. She introduces herself as Onisaki Ajiha. Curious why he's in the clubroom, she asks, and Oda, caught off guard, blurts out that he never expected someone as lively as her to be in the video game club, thinking he would only find more nerdy types like himself. Oda tells Ajiha that the reason he came was to join the video game club. Hearing this, Ajiha enthusiastically welcomes him, excited that they're both first-year students and hopeful they'll get along well. Without missing a beat, she begins searching through the games, eager to find something they can play together. After a moment, she pulls out a Mega Drive, and Oda can't help but be surprised at her choice. It's old-fashioned, far from the more modern consoles he expected, but Ajiha seems unfazed by its age, clearly enjoying the retro appeal. The two of them decide to play on the Mega Drive. Ajiha, switching gears from the physical activity of their previous game, suggests that they should now do something mentally stimulating. After browsing through the options, she eventually picks Puyo, a puzzle game. Oda admits that he's never played it before, but Ajiha insists that's exactly why he should try it. She adds, with a hint of pride, that despite how she might seem, she's reached the final stage of the game's story. As they prepare to play, Oda finds himself thinking how mysterious Ajiha is, a lively, energetic person who's deeply into retro games. The thought makes him nervous, worrying that he might not be able to keep up with her in the game. Despite his doubts, they switch to a different game titled Frog Stacking, which Ajiha claims she's a huge fan of, especially when playing against new challengers. Oda, feeling the pressure, knows he can't afford to let his guard down, fully aware that she's likely much more skilled at these games than she lets on. As they start playing Frog Stacking, Ajiha is feeling confident, managing to pull off a 4-chain combo early in the game. Out of curiosity, she glances over at Oda's screen to see how he's doing, only to be shocked. He's pulled off a 6-chain combo. Surprised, she blurts out, asking if he's secretly a pro. Oda, still focused on the game, replies that it's actually his first time playing. He casually mentions that he read through the lesson mode beforehand. Ajiha, now even more surprised, realizes that she could also improve if she checked out the lesson mode on her own Switch. She recalls how, after going through it, she managed to get 5 chains herself. Amazed, she expresses her admiration for his quick learning and his Switch. She suggests they give it another go, this time connecting his Switch to the TV to play on the big screen. As they share the console, Oda can't help but feel a bit nervous. The proximity between them causes their bodies to occasionally brush against each other, heightening his anxiety. The distraction proves too much for him, and Ajiha wins the game. Embarrassed, Oda makes a quick excuse, saying his brain feels overloaded from everything. After school, Oda and Ajiha head out together, and he can't help but feel a wave of nervousness wash over him. Walking home with a girl is something he thought only people who are dating do, and the idea makes him a bit self-conscious. Despite this, he tries to act casual as they walk side by side. After a while, Ajiha breaks the silence, talking about how she gets completely absorbed in things once she starts, admitting that she can't stop herself when she's into something. With excitement in her voice, she mentions how much she's raring for another round of gaming, and then asks if she could borrow his Switch. She says she wants to dive back into the lesson mode to master those chains, aiming for 8 this time. Oda, still feeling a bit flustered, agrees and hands over his Switch, though he briefly wonders if she'll return it later. Ajiha's face lights up with excitement, thrilled that he's agreed to let her borrow it. As Oda sits in the classroom the next day, his mind drifts back to everything that happened at the game's club. He's still baffled by the idea that a quiet, boring guy like him is hanging out with someone as lively as Ajiha. Lost in thought, he barely notices when Ajiha approaches. Her presence snaps him out of his reverie, and before he can say anything, she tells him they should organize a tournament together. This idea comes from her noticing a game on his Switch the previous day, Smart Balancers, where characters compete against each other on stage. The game offers a wide variety of characters, making it perfect for a fun competition. Furthermore, Ajiha discovers that in the Switch version of Smart Balancers, she can create a character that looks like her. Excited by this, Oda agrees to help and suggests they start by creating a user account for her. Ajiha insists that her avatar should resemble her closely, and playfully declares that it's Oda's responsibility to make sure it happens. Oda takes on the task and successfully designs an avatar that looks remarkably like Ajiha, even managing to make it look quite adorable. Pleased with the result, they move on to the next step, incorporating the avatar into the game. As they edit, they find that there are about 100 different costumes available to customize Ajiha's avatar. In a teasing tone, Ajiha jokingly asks if there's a risque bikini or something more intimate among the options. Oda, trying to keep things serious, quickly responds that there are no such costumes and that she should take the project more seriously, prompting a laugh from her as they continue customizing the character. Meanwhile, after selecting a dancer outfit for her avatar, Ajiha expresses curiosity about checking out some of the hidden aspects of her character. However, she soon realizes that all the parts she wants to see remain concealed. Oda then suggests that since his avatar possesses lightning powers, they could use that ability to reveal the hidden areas. They manage to achieve this and have a good time in the process, enjoying the playful exploration. Noticing how much fun Ajiha is having with the Switch games, Oda decides it's okay for her to borrow it for a longer period. He also proposes that they take turns using it each day. This news makes Ajiha incredibly happy, and she expresses her heartfelt gratitude to him. Excited by the opportunity, Ajiha then uses Oda's Switch to dive into a war game. As Oda stands at the entrance of the video game clubroom, he wonders if Ajiha will be there today. He feels a wave of anticipation at the thought of seeing her. Once he enters, he spots Ajiha immediately. To his surprise, she announces that they will be living together. Oda is taken aback by this statement, and, only after a moment, realizes he misinterpreted her words. Oda then connects the game to the television for better visibility, allowing Ajiha to play more comfortably. She quickly commands her avatar to locate Oda's space within the game. When she arrives at his virtual chamber, she finds 2 beds side by side. Curious, she asks him why there are 2 beds. Oda explains that they were just there when he arrived, and he decided to leave them as they were. However, Ajiha doesn't buy his explanation and playfully teases him, suggesting that he might be bringing a girl into the room. Oda quickly denies it, insisting that's not the case. After that, Ajiha's avatar sleeps on the bed, and Ajiha invites Oda to do the same. Oda continues to manage his avatar, who is clad in a bathrobe and holding a glass of wine. This makes the situation uneasy, and Ajiha asks Oda if he has any hidden agendas. He clarifies that this isn't the case, and that he is simply interested in having a little fun around town while dressed this way because it's a game. Consequently, he changes his clothing without delay. Meanwhile, Ajiha's avatar has no spare clothes other than the one she is wearing. He offers to use his money to buy some clothes for her, so they go to the store to purchase some. Ajiha can't contain her excitement as she observes the vivid variety of garments that her avatar is trying on. After 15 minutes of debate, she decides to wear an outfit designed for cosplay. They then travel to the town where they go fishing, eat fruits, and eventually find themselves in a cafe drinking coffee. Ajiha is so ecstatic that she expresses her desire to idle around in the game for an infinite amount of time. However, Oda mentions that, despite the game not being particularly significant, it is actually enjoyable, and this is most likely the first time he has ever played this game with someone else. Ajiha then teases him by suggesting that they should print a picture to commemorate their first outing together. Later on, they manage to have a more enjoyable time. While Oda is back at his residence, he is seen checking the image of their avatars together. He then wonders if he should sneak a peek at Ajiha's room in the game, claiming it is his place in town. When Ajiha asks him if he slept in her bed the following day, he replies that he did not. Ajiha is seen the next day, and she tells him that he should have and that they definitely ought to play today. At one point, Ajiha summons him to the rooftop and asks if he has a girlfriend. This leaves him speechless, and he replies that he has never had one. She responds that she understands what he means, and then asks him if he wants one in such an enticing way that Uda almost collapses, thinking she is confessing to him, only to realize she is talking about a dating sim. The next step is to investigate the various types of girlfriends, all of whom Uda says he is not personally compatible with. She then asks him what kind of girls he likes, and he mentions that a girl should have a lively personality, exude a friendly vibe, and possess a seductive demeanor. He starts to wonder if she believes he is talking about her. After that, she introduces him to a female character named Chiyosh, who appears to be fairly straightforward and seems like an ideal match for him. Uda watches as she describes Chiyosh's traits, her confidence, directness, and charming personality. As he listens, he can't help but notice how Chiyosh's physical appearance is strikingly similar to Ajia's. The resemblance sends a ripple of nostalgia through him, prompting memories of moments he shared with Ajia. Suddenly, the thought crosses his mind. He has entertained the idea of Ajia becoming his girlfriend. He recalls the time they shared a Valentine's Day kiss, a moment that felt both exhilarating and surreal. Yet here's the thing, Ajia is with him right now, making this situation feel all the more odd. It's as if he's caught between two worlds, the fictional realm of Chiyosh and the tangible presence of Ajia, who stands by his side. As Ajia listens to the introduction, she raises an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. Her serious demeanor surprises him, especially when she expresses that a kiss feels too distant. Uda's eyes widen at her words, recognizing her exceptional purity in romantic situations, which makes her comment all the more striking. Then he observed that she was blushing hard, and he asked her what was wrong. She answered that she was surprised by her response. A big male student enters the room where they're playing games and confidently announces, "Yo, a champ in the building." His booming voice echoes off the walls of the game club area, instantly grabbing everyone's attention. As soon as Uda hears this phrase, he reacts immediately, recognizing it as a reference from someone who works in Pokemon gyms, which proves to be the correct response. The large guy, with an easy smile, formally welcomes Uda into the gaming club and informs him that he has officially become a member. He introduces himself as Odakogi, the club president, a third-year student with a robust presence. Odakogi explains that he hasn't been able to attend the club as frequently as he would like because he has been overwhelmed with various responsibilities and commitments. Ajiha, feeling a wave of anxiety wash over her, becomes curious and inquires whether Odakogi has acquired a new game. He gestures dismissively, assuring her that he would discuss that matter later. The atmosphere shifts slightly as Odakogi decides to invite another club member into the room. He calls for Tsuru, a second-year member, who tends to be shy and quiet. Tsuru enters hesitantly, often keeping her distance. Although she attends the club every day, her primary motivation lies in stealing glances at Ajiha and Uda. From her perspective, it appears that they are flirting with each other, and she can't help but feel intrigued by their dynamic. In the midst of this, Ajiha remains blissfully unaware of Tsuru's observations, completely oblivious to the fact that she is the subject of someone's quiet admiration. Meanwhile, Uda, keenly aware of Tsuru's shyness, quickly responds to her unspoken assumptions by asserting that he and Ajiha do not engage in any activities that could be considered flirting. Ajiha moves closer to Tsuru, the shy club member, her curiosity piqued as she asks her about the kinds of games she enjoys playing. Tsuru, initially taken aback by the attention, hesitates but eventually opens up, sharing her preferences in a soft voice. The atmosphere in the room becomes warmer as Ajiha shows genuine interest, her friendly demeanor helping to ease Tsuru's shyness. Meanwhile, Odakogi, the club president, steps in and encourages everyone to get along with Tsuru, emphasizing the importance of creating a welcoming environment in the club. His booming voice carries a sense of authority, yet it is laced with camaraderie. Then, in a surprising turn of events, Odakogi pulls out a gun, causing Uda's heart to race. He misreads the situation entirely, believing for a brief moment that it is a real murder weapon. Panic flickers in his mind as he prepares for the worst. However, Odakogi's laughter quickly dispels the tension as he explains that it is, in fact, a controller designed in the style of a handgun. He elaborates on its features, revealing that it was originally incompatible with any games. However, Odakogi had taken the initiative to modify a model gun by integrating a gyro sensor and an accelerometer, effectively transforming it into a gaming controller. Uda listens in awe as Odakogi recounts his search for a solution, detailing the challenges he faced and the eventual success he found in his endeavor. With a flourish, Otokogi invites each of the four members, including Uchiha, Uda, and Tsuru, to select their own pistol-style controllers. Excitement builds in the air as they prepare to participate in a game known as Code of Dandy. After Uchiha becomes completely enthralled by the idea, the club president proceeds to divide the four members into two teams. Uchiha and Otokogi make up the red team, while Uda and Tsuru form the blue squad. Uda feels a twinge of concern about this combination, knowing he isn't very good at communicating and wondering how well he can work with Tsuru. As the red team shares laughter and banter, Tsuru notices Uda's unease. Leaning in closer, she whispers into his ear that she will not forgive him if he dies in the game. Uda blinks in confusion, perplexed by her words and unsure of what she truly means. The pressure of the impending game weighs on him, and he finds himself caught off guard by Tsuru's unexpected intensity. Meanwhile, the club president, oblivious to the exchange, announces that the practice is finished and declares that it's time to start the game. After going through the regulations of the team battle, which state that the team with the most kills when the clock runs out is the winner, they start the game. Uchiha quickly takes aim at the blue team, her excitement palpable. However, despite her enthusiasm, it seems that she struggles to land her shots. Only one stray round manages to strike Uda in the arm, while the rest sail harmlessly past their targets. The club president praises her for hitting one of them from a considerable distance, and Uchiha beams with pride at her performance. In the heat of the moment, both Uchiha and Otokogi are suddenly taken out by a headshot that leaves everyone astonished. Tsuru, the shy girl who typically keeps to herself, has displayed unexpected skill, and her precision catches everyone off guard. After the surprise, she mumbles that they should switch the teams, but her suggestion goes unheard as Uchiha and the club president excitedly strategize on how to secure victory in the next round. Feeling overlooked, Tsuru's mood darkens, and she turns to Uda, who is nursing his wound. With a serious expression, she warns him that she will not forgive him if he dies. As she treats Uda, her focus sharpens, and she regains her determination. In the following round, she surprises everyone once more by successfully eliminating the red team, even after they've already been knocked out of the game. In a burst of frustration, she raises her voice, demanding that they stop flirting in front of her. Uda suddenly realizes that Tsuru might harbor feelings for the club president. Her displeasure at Uchiha's flirtatious banter with him becomes evident, prompting the need for a team switch. Consequently, Uda and Uchiha find themselves paired together, while Tsuru joins the club president on the opposing team. With Uchiha and Uda now on the same side, Uchiha confidently asserts that they should be a team, citing their relationship as the reason. However, Uda's concern lingers. He worries that the seniors might misunderstand their close bond and assume that they are dating. Uchiha, seemingly unfazed by his concerns, shrugs it off and simply responds with an enthusiastic, "Okay." Despite her casual demeanor, Uchiha secretly understands that she could never take the position of club president from Tsuru, and she accepts this reality with a sense of assurance. The girls are currently participating in a volleyball game during today's gym class, while the boys are engaged in basketball. Uda, who isn't very skilled at sports, struggles to get through the class. He doesn't want to be a burden to anyone, believing that all he needs to do is pass the ball, which feels comparable to a minigame in Mario Party. He thinks it should be an easy task for him to complete. When Uchiha arrives on the scene, she immediately notices that Uda is drenched in sweat. Curious, she asks him if he's the type who puts in a lot of effort during sports. She explains that she is free until her game starts, which is why she came over to chat with him. Uda is startled to see her and points out that this is the boys' side of the gym. Surprised by her presence, he feels a little awkward. Uchiha continues, confidently stating that she excels at volleyball and invites Uda to watch her match if he isn't busy. Uda is taken aback to learn that she can play volleyball. Uchiha explains that she has been playing since she was 5 years old and proudly mentions that she defeated the Soviet Union on the Famicom. She believes that since she is good at Famicom volleyball, she will also perform well in a real match because the USSR team was the strongest in that game. Additionally, she claims she was the best player on the USSR squad. Just then, she is called to start her match. Before she heads off, the boys gather around to see if she is as skilled at volleyball as she claims to be. At the start of the match, Uchiha delivers an impressive shot that earns her team a point against their opponents. She achieves this by perfectly following the rhythm of 3 spikes, showcasing her skill. The boys, especially Uda, are taken aback by her talent. She outshines the boys on the court. Uda recalls her mention of the Famicom and finds himself completely astonished, questioning how her gaming experience translates to real-life volleyball. As the match comes to a close, Ajiha emerges victorious, and the boys begin to cheer for her outstanding performance. After the match, Uda is encouraged to give his best effort in the basketball game. Soon, it's their turn to play, and Uda tries to replicate what Ajiha did by applying the Famicom principles he learned from basketball video games. However, when he attempts to use the techniques from the game, he fumbles the ball, causing him to exclaim that it doesn't reflect how the games work. In the chaos, he accidentally collides with Ajiha, who is still standing behind the net. Overwhelmed with embarrassment, he drops to his knees, apologizing profusely and insisting that it wasn't intentional. Ajiha simply smiles at him, assuring him that she's fine. However, she playfully adds that he will owe her a date in exchange for her forgiveness. After school, the two of them head to the video game clubroom, excited to engage in a game of volleyball on the Famicom. Tsuru arrives at the clubroom alone, without the club president, who is currently with Uda and Ajiha. As Ajiha playfully asks Tsuru random questions about games, Uda discreetly notices that Tsuru seems more communicative than before, though she still carries a bit of a reserved air when the club president isn't around. When Ajiha realizes Tsuru isn't responding, she playfully teases her, suggesting she might reveal Tsuru's feelings to the club president. Tsuru's demeanor shifts to one of apprehension as she warns Ajiha that if she tries to say anything too revealing to him, she will not forgive her. In that moment, Tsuru's expression suddenly turns sad, and she confesses that the club president doesn't talk to her, no matter what she does. Ajiha comforts her, assuring Tsuru that she won't say anything to him. To help strengthen their friendship, Ajiha proposes they play a game together. She suggests Pop and Twinbee, a popular vertical scrolling game known for its charming characters and colorful world. Uda sits back, watching the two players as they dive into the game, which is particularly fun with two participants. In the game, there are two characters, Twinbee and Winbee. Ajiha chooses Winbee, declaring it to be the cuter character, while Tsuru opts for Twinbee, feeling it suits her better. However, Ajiha quickly exhausts her playtime, using all 6 continues that are meant to be shared between them. Once she finishes, she turns to Tsuru and asks if she's angry. Tsuru replies coolly that she isn't upset, but the chill in her tone suggests otherwise. Afterward, Tsuru resets the game settings and switches to pair mode, which makes it more challenging for Ajiha's character to perish since the enemies will focus their attention on her. While Ajiha carelessly provides cover fire, Uda notices that Tsuru skillfully draws the enemy fire toward herself, effortlessly sliding through attacks and taking down the adversaries. Together, they work in tandem, successfully defeating the final monster known as the Professor's ultimate weapon. The game's story unfolds as they confront a wicked professor, whose schemes for global domination are thwarted after his sanity is restored following a blow to the head. Ajiha is ecstatic. This marks the first time she has ever won the game. In her excitement, she expresses her gratitude to Tsuru by wrapping her arms around her shoulders in a friendly hug. Tsuru, despite the challenge Ajiha presents, is genuinely enjoying the game. In a lighthearted moment, Ajiha teases Tsuru, suggesting that she seems like a masochist player, a term used for those who thrive on playing exceedingly challenging games. On a Saturday morning, Uda is at home, deeply focused on a game he hopes to win to advance in his rank. Suddenly, he hears the doorbell ring and wonders if it might be a package delivery. Hurrying to the door, he opens it, only to be taken aback to find Ajiha standing there casually dressed. She explains that since he mentioned living nearby, she decided to look for his house by finding the one with his nameplate. Uda is surprised, realizing it's unusual for someone to track him down, especially considering how many people share the name Uda. Ajiha then asks if he's available, and he admits that he's busy playing smart balancers online. Her eyes light up as she exclaims that he is a true gaming boy, just as she expected. Excitedly, she proposes they play a game together, and soon they are seen traveling on a train. Ajiha insists that portable games are best played outside, and they make their way to a field that turns out to be much larger than she anticipated. As they set up their mat, they prepare to turn on the Game Boy, but the sunlight proves too bright for them to see the screen. They decide to move to the shade, which proves to be a much better option. However, as they settle in, Uda notices they are surrounded by couples on dates, and he finds it peculiar that he and Ajiha are there solely to play games. Ajiha pulls out a bento box, revealing several sandwiches she has prepared. She cheerfully declares that it's essential to have food when playing games. Oda, however, isn't convinced. He reflects on the day as a bit silly, recalling how Ajiha had come over to his place before. He remembers that she brought games for them to play together, and he realizes that she's done the same this time. Curious about her intentions, he asks her about it, but he can't help but wonder what motivates her to make such efforts. Oda turns to Ajiha, asking why she is going through all this trouble with someone like him, feeling a bit suspicious since it almost looks like a date. Ajiha finds his question amusing, admitting she had never thought of it that way before. However, she realizes that it might seem a bit odd for a girl to invite a guy to play Game Boy games on a day off. Despite the awkwardness, Uda understands that Ajiha is simply being herself. She explains that when she was a kid, none of her friends owned a Game Boy, yet she always yearned to play Game Boy games with someone. Most of her childhood memories revolve around wanting to share that experience, especially in the outdoors. She expresses that it's always fun for her when they play games together. Then, with a hint of concern, she asks if she's forcing him to be there, suggesting they could head back home instead. Uda quickly reassures her, saying he would love to play all the Game Boy games with her. He feels guilty for having thought otherwise, realizing that Ajiha is just like him, a fellow video game enthusiast who enjoys their time together. After playing over 30 Game Boy games, Uda and Ajiha take the train back home. Ajiha mentions she still has a single-player game called For the Frogs the Bell Tolls, claiming it's one of the best games out there. She adds that the music is fantastic, so they plug into shared earphones to listen together. However, Uda finds himself distracted. He can't hear the music at all over the pounding of his heart. Then Ajiha asks if she can rest her head on his shoulder because she feels tired. Uda's sense of reason starts to fade, but he notices that their friendship has undoubtedly deepened. Uda Taichi notices Ajiha drawing the curtain and asks why she is closing it. She replies that she mainly wants to set the mood. In that moment, Uda realizes she is serious about what they are about to do, something he hadn't believed would happen before. Ajiha admits she feels a bit scared, but is okay with it as long as it's with him. She returns to her seat beside Uda, and they decide to play Clock Tower, where Ajiha takes on the role of a young woman trapped in a mansion with a bloodthirsty killer. Her goal is to escape in this horror adventure game, which is filled with puzzles. The more Ajiha immerses herself in the game, the deeper she gets drawn into its chilling atmosphere. As Ajiha reads through all the game features, she realizes it's far too scary for her. Uda encourages her to check the wooden box in the game, but she wonders why there's no music, only the sound of her character's footsteps, which adds to her anxiety. When she opens the box, she's shocked to find the Scissor Man inside. This is a stark contrast to her previous experience with the game. Even Uda is taken aback by this twist. Later, Ajiha's character ventures outside the mansion and spots a car. Surprised but hopeful, she decides to try to escape in it. To her horror, she discovers the Scissor Man is already in the car with her. The fright causes Ajiha to cling tightly to Uda, who finds his thoughts scattered as he feels the weight of her chest resting on his arm. Meanwhile, Ajiha thinks Uda must be incredibly brave for not screaming or reacting to the game. When Uda finally regains his senses, he can't speak. He knows his lack of reaction stems from the less-than-pure thoughts crossing his mind, but he takes comfort in the fact that his composure makes him feel more manly. Ajiha fails to escape the game, even though she initially believed she could make it out alive. Realizing she still has mysteries to solve in the mansion, she decides to play again. Although the idea terrifies her, her determination remains. Uda encourages her to keep playing, assuring her that she will get the hang of it, and expressing his own curiosity about the game's ending. Although Uda knows he's not great at watching horror games and usually avoids them, he has no choice but to watch as Ajiha plays. He's not used to getting scared anymore, but Ajiha's over-the-top reactions make it hard to keep a straight face. Fortunately, Ajiha's character manages to hide from the Scissor Man, who surprisingly doesn't spot her. Ajiha wonders why he walked right past her, thinking he must be guarding another area. Uda explains that the killer is actually quite dim-witted and that Ajiha's character is surprisingly strong, able to carry a huge plank of wood with one hand. This revelation impresses both of them. Ajiha laughs at Uda's amusing commentary, realizing she hadn't thought about it that way before. His lighthearted words help her push aside her fear, allowing her to enjoy the game a little more. Ajiha spots a disgusting fridge in the game and decides to check it, half expecting to find a dead body inside. To her shock, she discovers it's crawling with bugs instead. The sight frightens her so much that she instinctively lays down on Uda, using him as a shield to block out the horrifying image. Once she calms down, she apologizes for the sudden outburst and decides to turn the game back on, which she had switched off earlier. However, just as she does, a real grasshopper appears next to the controller. Ajiha jumps up in fright, unable to contain herself, while Uda tries to reassure her that it's just a bug. But before he can finish, she scrambles to the top of a shelf, seeking refuge from her fear. Her scream attracts the attention of a nearby man, who rushes in to check on them and see what's going on. On a Sunday at the shopping mall, Ajiha and Uda find themselves wandering through the lively space. As they arrive, Uda reminisces about his childhood memories, recalling a time when he played every game imaginable. He remembers having much more fun at the arcade than at home, where he would get to play games with random kids, switching out whenever someone lost.